And let's get started. So as mentioned, we'll do today in a fair few different sections, and I'll pause at the end of them and you can ask questions. And for today's webinar, we're going to be looking at our email builder component for the first 10 minutes. Now this, as I said, some bit of feedback. People wanted to learn more about what we've got and how it all works. I'm sure that everyone that's on LockedOn now is quite familiar with the dashboard and how all the functions here work. So we won't sort of spend any time on that. But if we look at the engine section inside templates, when you hit view all, you have emails. And if you've installed our Aaron Shiner pack, our trigger pack, you'll have a whole lot of preset email templates. Now to build your own template or to create your own new one, whether it's a newsletter or just a general email, you'll come into the templates area, you'll hit actions, and then you'll hit add template. So for today, we're going to put webinar test. We'll build an email with the not the subject, the label is going to be webinar test, and we will add this. And today I want to go through each one of these components of our email builder. And this is going to allow you to see how you can use different style widgets throughout the property or throughout the email marketing system that we have. And if you're familiar with email building systems like MailChimp or Vision 6, you'll see that LockedOn has quite a fair bit of power to make every email design different. Now, when you first start to build your email, up in the top left of the screen, it has subject. Now, if the email you're building will always have the same subject, let's call it monthly newsletter or your property update, you would always set a subject. If you do not set a subject, when you go to use the email, it will then ask you to enter the subject before you can send it. So if you don't enter a subject, the email will fail and it won't allow you to send. So let's just set a subject here. And inside your subject line and inside the body of your emails, you're able to add personalization. This is the first time I'll talk about this section, then we'll look at it in the paragraph as well. So the personalization, is how you add merge tags that merge data. So I might put in my subject, we're going to put hi, and I want it to say the person's first name. So we're going to look at our personalization. There's a whole lot of merge tags we can use. But what I want you to know is there's a little line here, and this line represents the top sort of 10, 15 merge tags that we would use in most emails that are above that line. So we put them at the top of the list. There's also like another 100 or 200 in there. And we also have a PDF of all the other merge tags you can use. There's probably 300, 400 all up. So if there's something you want to merge, generally we have a tag for it. If it's not in the list, just contact support and they can give you the merge tag. We can't have everything in there. It's just so many tags to put in there, but we've tried to put the most common ones. So when you're putting someone's name, we can put hi recipient name. So you can see over here in my subject, it says hi Billy. And I'm going to make this hi Billy, your weekly market update. So when I send this, it's going to merge everyone's name in the subject personalized. So I've got 30 clients in my database. Every person will get hi, their name, your weekly update. So it seems kind of personal even before they've opened the email. So that's the subject set. Now, if we're looking at the widgets we have here, you can see there's 11 different styles, and inside these are multiple different options. So look, if you looked at all the different combinations, there's probably 50, 60 different email style layouts that you can build using different components inside these widgets. How you generally start an email off is by using the header widget. And this is going to put your logo at the top left. And it looks quite nice, and something that's very common with a lot of emails is to put a keyword or a key sentence at the top right. So if we have our logo locked on and a header title, that won't actually send. It's just a little placeholder. And you can see on the right, I can type something. So I might put weekly update again here. So it kind of references back to my subject. If you do not want anything there, you can just backspace it. Again, you can add personalization there. I could even have at the top, hi, and put the person's name, recipient name. So it's got their name at the top. That would look a little bit silly, but we'll just put weekly update. Now, using our header widget, you also have options to increase your font by pressing the up option, making it bold or normal. You can pick the color. It will automatically default to your highlight color. And we can also see that we can change the logo. So my logo I'm using at the moment is for a white background, which all of you would default for. If I wanted a color one, it's using my PNG, which means that in the colors area for my row background, which is now set as white, I could change this to a green. Or I could use one of my theme colors, which is a background or a highlight color. So these will be your colors that your company uses, your two primary colors, and that's an option to use there. And you'll see a lot of this color and settings options throughout your whole template builder. So I actually want it to be the black with my white logo. So that's my dark gray color for LockedOn with the white LockedOn logo. And with my font color at the top, I'm also going to make that white, and I'm going to set it to bold. We might bring my font down just a little bit to say 18. So that's my first header widget. You're not really going to be able to break things there. So just make sure you play around with it. If you change something, I didn't mention this one though, the logo position, we can go into the center, or I can put that onto the right and the weekly update swapped around, but I kind of like it as a left. So a few different options there. Generally it's left or center, to be honest with you. It looks quite nice for your starting off your email. Now, when we're piecing together a normal standard email, this is just something you might write. So a nice text email that you want to have as a tool to use in your suites, like after appraisal email or a nice to meet you email or a buyer email. I'm going to show you a newsletter, but let's just say it's a general plain email. You would set the header and you would drop in a paragraph, and a paragraph is your text. And with all the text, we start with hi, you add the recipient name, it puts in their name, and to go down 2 lines in the email editor, you hold shift and you hit enter. Now, some people like to copy a whole lot of text they've written and paste that into the format here, and that can break our paragraph widget. The best way to paste your text in is to right click and paste as plain text. It will then paste it in as the text you need to use in LockedOn, and you can format this by highlighting it, changing the size, and changing the color. That's where you do all your formatting inside our editor. So I just wanted to show you that. So if we go down 2 lines, text goes here. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of sample text in there, but that's just, you would have your whole text in there. You can then bold it, underline it, and you have a whole lot of things that you can do if you highlight particular sections using the green edit option. A really cool tool here is that you can link this. So text goes here. I might put full stop, click here to see website. I can then highlight the click here, and I can use the link option, paste a link here, www.lockedon.com, and I can tick that, and that is now highlighted, that if we click it, it will go to that website. So easy ways to format your text, bold it, hyperlink it, and once you've written your paragraph, that sentence is then locked in. You can add as many merge tags as you want. So we'll just save that for now. Now, if we are building a newsletter, there's no right or wrong to this, but I like to, or the ones I've seen that really stand out is when you have a header and you start with an image. And this will show you how I can click on this image and drag it up. So I'm holding my mouse, I'm dragging it up, and I'm putting it at the top. And with our image widget, we can have one big image. We can have 2 images next to each other, 3 images, 4 images, 5, or 6. And as I'm changing the image size, if you look at image 1 here, you can see that it's 650. If I change it to 2, it goes to 320. So it's telling you the width of the images you need to put in when you upload to make this look good. Now, all images are in a 4:3 ratio. So you should be uploading as 214 width, and you want to make sure that they're all the same width and height. Now, if you upload that, they'll look perfectly neat. And you can see I've got 3 there. I'm going to change this back to 1. So when I start off my 1 image at the start of my newsletter, and I go into the image area and I pick an image, you can see I've uploaded quite a few images here already. So that I've got saved in my library, but you can hit the upload image option at the bottom and you can pick any files that you have on your computer. It will upload that particular picture and put it in your library at the top. So for my newsletter, I'm going to insert this one of Aaron Shiner. And this is a really good example because what this now allows me to do is I've created an image with a play button that I can now hyperlink, and every image we can direct to any particular link we want. So I want this link to go to www.aaronshiner.com / to his blog. And on his blog is a video, and it will go to that page and the video will start playing. You can link that to a YouTube video. If someone clicks on it, it starts playing that. And again, the more images you pick, the more you can link. So if I had 2 images, you'd see they'd be side by side, and I'll just pick my second image just to show you this. So we'll put another image here. I'll use this one of a video, and I could link the second image by using the second image ribbon. Okay, now I don't want to use the second image. I'll just put it as 1. And the final thing I want to show you with images is that you don't have to do this. The background you can see is gray, but when you're editing it, I like to see everything as white. And I can then pick the row background color as white, and you can see that it kind of now blends in down the bottom with the paragraph. So that's the header, the paragraph, and the image widget. So then we get into a headline one. I'm showing all the kind of easy ones first. A headline allows you to have a nice, bold text or sentence in your template in whatever area you like. So what we're going to put in here is market update. Again, I can use the font weight to make it bold. I can change the font size. I might want to put my text color as white, and in the colors, set the row background to be my background color, so it matches my ribbon at the top, or my highlight color is my green. So what you're basically seeing is we're now just setting up a nice heading underneath that to go into our paragraph. So I can drop and drag, click, and put this wherever I want. And any one of these areas, you can hit the duplicate option to make an exact copy of the one you've set up. And that'll put it at the bottom of your email, which you can drop and drag wherever you like. Okay, so with my market update, using the header widget, it's very, very basic. It just allows you to have a nice sentence. You can have it centered, left, or right. Most of the time, it's going to be centered in the middle. And the main thing you want to do is just make the heading stand out with some colors. So background color, nice text color using your company colors, obviously. Okay, so we've got that in there now. The last thing I'll show you in regards to the header and the headline and the header widget is that you can make it so it looks green, just the same width as your image, and that's using the background color. So here, if I put this as my highlight and I'll set the row to white, see how it's now just spacing this so it looks like one big email that goes down the page in the middle, and I can edit my header to do the same. So inside the colors here, I'll make this the highlight and the row, oops, sorry, not that, the background, and then we can set this to be white. Okay, that should be updating both of them, sorry, but it looks like it has to be, the header has to be the whole width across. Okay, so that's setting the whole width there. So difference in how it works in the headline and the header. So now we have a bit of the email working with some of the basic features in there. We can look at the buttons option, and the buttons are quite simply like a header, but allows you to do 1, 2, or 3 buttons. And each button you can actually label and put a link to it. So if I said website, so this is going to go back to my website, and we put in there www.lockedon.com. The next one in button 2, we were going to say Facebook. And the next we will put our Facebook link there. And the next one we would say Instagram. And this is something to have at the bottom of your email or at the top. I've seen it actually at the top and it looks quite good. Again, in the colors, you can put this as white and it sets that there. So at the top here, we have your 3 buttons to visit the page, which are directing people to your website, Facebook, or Instagram. Each button, you can change the text color and the button color. So you can really make that stand out. So we'll leave it at the top there for now. Now, looking at the more complex widgets that you can use, we could start to put in here articles, which look great in newsletters. So an article is just mainly you giving people access to a brief description of something of interest. And if you're doing blogs on your website, it should be directed to that. But it has a nice little image there. If we look at article 1 and we scroll down, sorry, you can see it's 290 by 220 is the image. And that's kind of our little rectangle box that you should design your images to go into there. So if I go to pick an image next to this, we can see my images that I have located here. We can pick a particular image to go in there. We'll use this one there. And we then can give it a headline, which is test. You can set the color on that. We can then write content. Content goes here. You can see that updates, and the find out more button, we have find out more. We can change that to view article, and we can link that to any link we want. So remember, blogs or articles, you can link it to realestate.com blog or a domain.com blog, just sort of something of interest for your area, like a local newspaper blog. But that's a really good way to direct people to something that's interesting in your particular area. Now, with your articles, a new feature here that we have is we used to just have one article like this. You now have the ability to put in 2 articles that will stack next to each other, or you can have 3 articles. So when you're designing these, the thing is that the page width this is 650. And looking at my first article, the second article, we can see the width is 230. The first article, because we set that up, was still 290, but I'll just bring that down to 230. And basically, when we start to have 230 there, it's spacing out this across each one evenly. We probably want to drop them down more to 200 each. So then we're using the 650 width of this will be spread out evenly across the two of them. So I'll just make that 200, and we will go into this one, and we want to make that 200. So that all fits with a bit of a buffer, and you can see each one will be able to have an image, a headline, and some text, and you can control all the settings in them. So that is a new feature inside LockedOn, where you now have the ability to stack articles next to each other. Okay, we're just going to have one because I've already set that up, and then we'll save this. Articles are great in your newsletter, but you should be changing them every week. Okay, I mean, sorry, every time you send a newsletter, so it's relevant and something of interest there. Okay, now, once I've put in the article, there's a very simple one called a spacer, and this allows me to break up the email. So here, it's simply a width. I'll put it down to 20. And in the colors, we can pick a color or a highlight or a background. So remember, they're your two set colors, or you can type in a color code. And a spacer will just break up the content. So I've got my paragraph, a spacer, into my article. After my article, I might want to duplicate that spacer. And now, once I've set up the two spaces, I can start to load in my property feature. And a property feature is where we specify the main property of our newsletter that will go out. And you can pick this when you're sending the newsletter. So the widget will actually, the email will say, hey, you can't send this until you tell us what you want the property feature to be. Or in the properties area, you can set this manually every time you set the newsletter. So I'm going to set this manually for now. We're going to do 8 Skinners. And that means that when I send this, it'll automatically know to pick 8 Skinners as the feature property. And if I'm doing a feature property, I like to use a headline image. I'm going to duplicate the headline, which is for my market update. We had all the text there. I'm going to drag this up the screen, just hold it below the gray bar. And I want to put it here. And instead of market update, let's change this to feature listing. And again, I want to keep maybe this white. So I edit my property feature. The image background color, I might change to white. And we can now see I've got a whole lot of different things I can control here. Removing the agents, hide the address, beds, bath and car, hide the price. So there's different things you can control on this. I can do it as a single image instead of showing all the 3 that we have. So play around with that, but they're just settings that you can have. The agent background color, don't really like it gray, put it as white as well. Okay, so that's how you can put feature images in, feature property, sorry, and you can set as many of those as you want. But general rule of thumb is when you're creating a newsletter, and this is just from my personal preference, all the ones I've seen that look good, is you have one feature and then you start to use your property card. So the property card option is going to allow you to put a list of properties together. And this will give you a sample too, but here's our list. If you want to show a list of auction properties, you select the auction layout. If you want to do for rent properties, you select the for rent layout. For sale, just sold, leased, a manual list, which is the same as your for sale, or your open home list. And each one of these has a preset of what data it's getting. So I just want to show you, if I use the for sale list, the properties is grabbing all the properties for sale. If I use the for rent list, it will grab all of the properties in here. If I dropped it in and selected it correctly, sorry, it will grab all the properties that are for rent. So you've got different lists of what this will do. If we look at this and we grab the just sold list, then it's going to get all the properties that were exchanged in the last 90, 7, 30, or 14 days, completely up to you. You can see each one's putting a heading there, and you can control that in the headline. You can change that if you like. But what I want to show you with this is when you're building a list of properties, the first thing I might want to show is my open homes. And with my list of properties, I want to get a list of all of the upcoming, all of the properties with open homes in the next 7 days. That will be my list, because I send this out on a Thursday. It's going to give me all the opens for the next week. Now, straight after that, in the email template newsletters we give you, I'm just rebuilding that, we want to put a for sale list. And in that for sale list, I'm going to specify I want all of the properties with no upcoming open homes. So this at the top will be my opens. This below will be every other property that's not for sale. Not open. And we can save that. And then below that list of properties, I would now like to put in all of the properties that I've sold. So we're going to use the just sold list, and we're going to say, show me all the properties I've exchanged the last 90 days. So my list in my email, it's starting to come together with a whole lot of components. So we've got my opens for sales, my just solds, and I could put my rentals in there. Now I'm going to briefly touch on this. I've gone a little bit over time, but here's the brand new thing we've done with the email widgets. Most of you have seen these lists of properties. However, what you can now do in the edit option is change the display of how you want this to look with the list large, grid, list small, or list small with button. And this will really change how your emails or newsletters start to look. If I wanted to use my grid option, the grid will have a limit of showing 20 properties. So if you have more than 20 opens, you might want to up that to 50. You have some options in here to show the full address, use short summary, show under offer. Okay, in the open times, you can choose to bold the color or change it. And also in the header, you can get rid of the open home heading, or you can type your own, this weekend's open home. So you've got a lot of control on headings, what you see. So I'm going to leave the open homes one as it is, like I've changed it to a grid. And in the for sale one, we can edit this. And in the display options, let's change this to a list small, and we'll leave the just sold how it is. So we've put together some options here of how our properties look. And at the top right, you can click this option to preview your email. Now to preview it, this will show you exactly what it's like as it sends. We've got my header, my buttons, my video, market update, my market update intro text. I've got one article going into my feature listing, 8 Skinners, the properties for sale, which is already left aligned. I need to fix that. It goes into my just sold, and it didn't have the grid there. But you can see all the different options and styles of how you can lay out your emails here. Okay, so I'll just save and close that. And we kind of went 10 minutes over there, but that was a brief sort of explanation of how you start to use all the different components inside the email template builder. Now, there is no limit on what order you put them in. So if you take the probably 30 to 40 different style, like different widgets, designs we have, and you place them all in different orders, and so I don't know, it's probably an unlimited amount of different emails that you can have on how they will look and how they can vary from user to user. But you can drop and drag them into any position. You can change the colors, the heading, put your own images in there. Okay, if you want, and you're really interested to build really nice looking emails, I've actually saved a lot of some of our good users' nice looking templates. So you can email our support team and ask for us to send you a few samples just to give you some inspiration on building your own. But email marketing is a big part of real estate, and getting your newsletter template looking great is something you should really spend a lot of time on in your first design. And once you have it down packed, you really should not be changing it, because a lot of the content will auto merge, and each week you should just be changing a blog or you're updating your feature property. Once you have the template set and done, you will use that design for a good 12 months. And it should be something that your company revisits and redesigns, I would say at least every 12 months. But it doesn't have to be a full redesign. You might just change the banner or the logos or a few different colors, but make it interesting, because after 12 months of someone getting your newsletter every week, it's going to need a refresh. Resume the recording for, was there any way to link to an email address? And that's something common that people do, is saying, like, how do you, Simon, you might need to chat back on this, but I'm guessing you want a button that someone clicks on that says like email me or contact us. Is that correct? I'll see when your chat comes through, but I'm pretty sure that is. Yeah, or a hyperlink. So if we look at the template, and the one I was doing was the webinar, and we go into the webinar test, I've got my buttons at the top here. So I'm going to add a new button, and it's at the bottom of the email. And instead of find out more, I'm going to change this to email me. Now, the email code for setting up an email, if someone clicks it, it opens up the email and sends you an email, is mail to : and then you put your email address, semicolon, sorry, look at LockedOn.com. And that will then, if I save this, that button is now linked to that email. So the email me button, if I have the option here and I right click, open a new tab, so it's just going to pretend we're clicking the button, you can see it's just directly open the email on my computer with the email address in it, And there is extra options to set the subject and set text. There's some advanced stuff there that will pre-fill a lot of that. But yes, you can hyperlink that the exact same way or use a button. So that's a very cool feature that some like advanced users have actually, we've set them up and tested all that as well. Okay, perfect. All right, and I just had one question come in. Would you show us what the email looked like that you have just built? I did a preview of that, Ed, so that's in the recording. One of these things was broken, but yes, the email, it will look like using my properties, what we have here, and I can use that later on today. I'll send you a copy of it. But go into your own emails and start changing some of your designs and test it by using the preview option at the top right, and you'll see exactly how they look. Okay, so as I said, gone a little bit over there, got a bit excited with some of those new features inside the email template builder, but let's get into the buyer side of LockedOn. So with the buyer side of LockedOn, generally buyers enter your system through an inquiry, and that's going to be something that we capture into the system, into the inquiries area from REA or domain. Now, if you don't have this set up, it's possible for us to capture your leads from realestate.com and domain.com, from all homes, and there's one more, which I just had a mental blank on. If you're with them, the other one is Zango. So there's a few sites that are linked directly into the inquiry capture area. And what happens, an inquiry comes in, we capture it in the system, and it will sit in the inquiries area, and you'll see it like this. Now that means that they've made an inquiry on your property. And when we start looking in the engine, LockedOn has a trigger system, and this is all about automation. And inside the triggers, we have about 8 triggers that we've got live for everyone. We're going to continually adding more and more. So things that the system could do automatically for you. But one of them is the inquiry response. So basically what this means is that any inquiry we capture for you from REA domain, the system will automatically process, capture it to the system, and send them a thank you for your inquiry email. You can also have a thank you for your inquiry SMS. That obviously costs money. Email's free. If you want the SMS, we can easily add that into your trigger, but it's not part of it, but you would just let us know. So when that inquiry comes in, because if I go into the engine into triggers, the inquiry response we can see is active. So if I edit it, we could see it's active there. I've turned it on. If you want to turn yours on, hit that and edit that, and it will save it. And this is what it would do. I've got myself in the database. Pretend I've made an inquiry on 8 Skinners. The system's automatically captured and processed that, and it will automatically go send email. So this is instant, pretty much. Sorry, I got the wrong template. We need to use the trig inquiry reply template. So it will grab this template, it will load in 8 Skinners, and it will then pre-fill in the thank you message. So thank you for your inquiry on this. It's got a bit of a custom reply about the property. Then it goes into the property photos, details, view online, watch videos, the agents, and that sends automatically to the inquiry. If you have the SMS, this is what it looks like, just so you guys can see. It is the trig inquiry reply SMS for 8 Skinners. So your buyer would get this SMS from the listing agent straight away. Thank you for inquiry on the address. I'll be in contact with you shortly. Please save my number. If you have any questions, you can reach me on this number anytime. And then that goes out to them straight away. Completely up to you if you want to have both running. But that's a really, really kind of nearly industry standard. Like not everyone's doing it, but it's becoming more and more of an industry standard, is that your CRM captures inquiry and gets an auto reply out to them. Now, if you are capturing inquiries into the system, they'll sit here and you need to process them. And processing just means you've called them, you've qualified them, you want to create them as a new client. If you don't want to create them as a new client, like it's a fake name, fake number, you can archive it and then process, and that will kind of delete it, but it's still saved against the property. Now let's pretend we've processed me and I'm in the system. When you process an inquiry, it will create the client for you. In the information buyer criteria, it will load the screen and make you as a new buyer. So inside the buyer area, we turn them active and we start to enter in their criteria. So you can see I'm already set up, 2 beds, 1 bath, 2 car. I'm looking for an apartment and a house. I've got 300,000 to 2 million to spend. If I wanted to put in certain suburbs, you can type here and it will use Google Maps to search the suburbs, and we can then update this. So this buyer has very particular criteria. Like there's a lot of fields filled in there. Most buyers will just give you a price and you only need to put in a maximum price. When you click here to view matching properties option, it's going to show you a list of all the properties that suit this buyer. Now, I know that you all can't be in front of your computer all day, every day and speaking to the buyer, but if you were to come back into the office and process that, you can still do this email, just send it to them anyway. But if you're sitting in front of your computer, you would say, look, Luke, thanks for your inquiry on 8 Skinners. I actually have 3 other properties that suit your really particular criteria. You may have seen them on realestate.com or on our website, but I'm going to send an email now to you with all of those properties, and it's called the buyer match template. So the buyer match template will use the matching properties for this person. We can see that 3 of them are available, and we can send that off to our buyer. So it gives them the nice written email and the 3 matching properties to view and watch the videos. That's a great sort of first point of contact with someone. Now, the second part of really having a really good buyer like Luke, who's got particular criteria, is that you can match your appraisals. This was a really good feature we added about 6 months ago, and it can only be used for buyers that you get really good criteria or if your database is quite small. So what you can actually do is look at the appraisals you have based on Luke's criteria. I can see that 16 Malua would be a match for him. Now, this doesn't really have anything to do with the buyer, but what it has to do with is you as an agent going, I should really ring that person, 16 Malua, and let them know I've just got a super qualified buyer that may suit their property. Use that for any hot buyers you have that give you really good criteria. You're going to be prompted to speak to people that you may have forgotten about, and it matches on the appraisals. It's a really, really powerful feature. Okay. So looking at that, any hot buyers, you would always check what appraisals they match and start calling them. You also have the ability to print that list of the appraisal, so you can then go, oh, well, I might take this in the car and ring those people whilst I'm out on the road. Now, when you start putting buyers in the system, they start matching properties and we start doing just listed. And that's where you get effective email marketing happening. Now, we'll look at that when we look at the property section. We might do it now. I think we'll do it now. So if we go into listing matches and we look at 8 Skinners, I've got a small database and this is a new listing. And if we look at my buyer match list, we can see that there is 5 matching buyers and I'm on that list. Now it's showing me the matching buyers and what tags they're in. And with this list, whenever we get a new listing, we should be doing a just listed email out to our buyers. And we hit the send email option and we can send off an email which is just listed, some of our standard templates. This will find the 3 buyers and their email address. It'll use my just listed template, nice design, branding, and we can send that off to the 3 or 300 or 3,000 buyers you have. Now, once you start sending emails like this, in the reports area, in emails, you should always be using your email stats to your advantage. So when I look at this test just listed 8 Skinners email I did earlier in the month or last month, in the details area, I can start to see who's opened it, who's clicked on it. What's important for me as an agent is that 24 hours after I've sent a just listed, I don't want to call every buyer, but I want to call the self-qualified hot buyers. And by a buyer opening your email and clicking on it, which I can see here, we now have the ability to call through the people that have opened it and clicked on it and try and invite them to view the property. This is where we start to get leverage back from the system of having good data. Something that when I train this, most of the 90% of agents are not doing this, and you should be doing it for every just listed, you or your PA. It goes out to your buyer matching list, and 24 hours after, you find anyone who opened it and clicked on it and you call them because they are self-qualified hot buyers. You're not going to have hundreds or thousands. You might have 50 would be big. Okay. And that's 50 great connections to speaking to people who you know already are interested in the property. Okay. And they're the first people to get through to it. So use that to your advantage. Now, if I had 50 people here, I'll just clear this and show you, look, there's my 6 people I sent it to. Pretend these are the 6 that opened it. I can go actions, create hit list, get those people in a list at the top of my screen, go view summary. First person's open. I ring Luke. I speak to him. I add some notes about the call. I invite him to the property, and then I move to the next record. I move to the next record, next record, next record. The hit list function inside LockedOn is turning LockedOn into a telemarketing machine for you. Okay. Now, if we go back into my clients and we search for Luke Newton, so we've covered off on how we process a buyer, the automation around their inquiry response, how we send off a just listed to them and use those stats. The second automation that we have around buyers is in the engine in triggers. And to be honest with you, every new account that comes onto LockedOn is installing their triggers and setting these up. But the newsletter one, I haven't got it active in mind, but the way we set that up is we edit it. We then go into the edit option and we pick when we want it to start. So for my business, I want my newsletters to go every Thursday. So I'll start it tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll repeat this every 1 week forever. And down below, we can see that it's using the newsletter email template, which we give you, and it's going to all buyers. So if I was to turn that on, it means tomorrow at 10 a.m., the system will automatically do this. It will find all my buyers, and I only have 23. Now, your accounts will have way more than this, but it will go send email every week at 10 a.m. on a Thursday. It's going to load this newsletter. So what I showed you at the start of today is how you can edit newsletters. This is a template that's already set. Now, if you thought, well, some of those things Luke showed were great, you can change the style, the way this looks for your particular newsletter, which I would recommend you do. You can also add articles, but the main caveat there is that you have to update your articles every week before Thursday at 10 a.m. Now, again, it won't matter if you send the same article to them accidentally, like once or twice, but you want people to engage into this email. Yes, it is very generic, but this is one thing in real estate that's kind of like a non-negotiable, is that if someone's a buyer in your database, they should be getting a list of all of your stock, all of your opens, all of your sales. So we put that together in this method, but to make it interesting, it's up to you to add your own articles, to add buttons, to change the color, etc. Okay, so you can see I've got my sold properties the last 60 days, anything for rent. I've got all my properties that are for sale there, and above that would be any opens I have. Again, that's going every Thursday at 10 a.m. That's bulletproof follow-up to every buyer you ever meet. You start looking at your stats of that. You can see how many are opening, how many are clicking on what properties. It becomes a really good tool for you to keep an eye on. But make it interesting. If you don't, it will just automatically send our template every week. Okay, so the buyers in the system, and we'll look at my record again, but the next part of automation around buyers, and a lot of our automation is geared towards them for like system bulk communication, is that if we go into the property Luke inquired about and we look at the activity, we can see 8 skinners. I'm going to set up an open for this property. So in the marketing opens, we're going to pretend it's open this weekend. Okay, that's Saturday at 9 a.m. for 20 minutes. And now that that's set, the next engine trigger automation I would turn on for every account is the open home alert. And the open home alert will send I've got it for every Thursday at 2 p.m. and it finds every property that's open in the next 3 days. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it sends them an email that the property is open home. So let's go to 8 skinners and I'll show you how it works. Automatically on tomorrow at 2 p.m., this property is open. So it finds it, and it's doing all this without you having to do anything. It will go into the activity area. It will see there's 6 inquiries and there's been 4 inspections. It will find any inquiry that has not inspected the property yet, and it will go send email, and it will invite those inquiries to come to the property because it's open this weekend. And this is the email it sends. So we're looking at the email going to 4 people. Hi, Andrew. We'd like to invite you to the upcoming open home for this property, 7th of November, 9 to 9:20. For more information, see the property below. Now we know the person's interested. They've inquired on it online, or you've put them in as an inquiry. They're getting this alert to come to the open home on a Thursday. They turn up to your open home and they inspect it. And with LockedOn, our home open app at the moment is HomePass. You all get a free account with HomePass. You use that app to collect the names and details of your client, and it syncs them into the system. And the final buyer automation is that when Luke Noonan inspects the property, we automatically send him an SMS 15 minutes after he's visited the property saying, thank you for coming to the property. And we should see that in my history because I've inspected this property before, which is nice to meet you. Oh, there's so much in here because I've used my client for a long time. Actually, you can see history of emails and SMSs here. Okay, so there's a whole lot. Inquiry SMS reply straight after appraisal. I've used Luke for so long. Thank you for viewing the property. So there's one there. So hi, Luke. Thank you for inspecting 8 Skinners Dole Point. I will call you in the following days to get your feedback. Any questions in the meantime, please SMS or call me. So that goes 15 minutes after the person views the property. Now, instantly 1 hour after it, when they're viewing a competitor's property, we send them an email. So on their smartphone, they get a beautiful email that says, again, thank you for viewing the property. There's the open home alert, upcoming open home. Because I've got so much automation in here. Hopefully I can find this. Auto testimonials, auto inquiry. Let's find one. Or I could just send one, but viewing the history. It's nice to show you this. After inspection, thank you for 8 Skinners. There we go. So let's view it. So they get this nice email. Thank you for inspecting 8 Skinners Dulles Point. If you have any questions, my contact details are below, and there's the property information. Again, these can all be customized to include a lot more information than what you're viewing. But as a buyer, I just want to recap on the impressive life cycle they have with your office if you have a fair bit of our triggers turned on. And we'll take my record as an example. So Luke was in the system and I made an inquiry today. I got an automatic reply of an email and SMS, and then you called me, put me into the system, captured my details, and you sent me a list of all the properties that match. Like, that itself is just world-class service to any buyer. Now, straight after that, like not straight after that, but on a Wednesday, I got your automatic newsletter and I got all your listings, all your open homes, your recent sales that we hadn't talked about before, and any properties you had for rent. Now, on the Thursday, I got a reminder to visit the property that I inquired on with the open home times. And then I turned up to that open. You took my details in an app and I instantly got an SMS from you and then an email 1 hour after. Now, I don't know how many of you are in the process of buying a home or looking at home or have ever been through a competitor, but if you've inquired on a property and then you've turned up to an open, if you've had that kind of experience, then I would really put it in that if only 5% of agents would have a system that does that sort of contact to a buyer. Now, if a buyer has more than one inquiry with you, they're just getting repetition of this service. So it is great, super powerful, effective. You're really not doing too much yourself, but you're giving world-class service to buyers. Now, obviously, your hot buyers, they're the ones you're dealing with on the phone, you're speaking to, they're making offers, you're putting them together. But in a world of real estate, you can't do that service to the amount of buyers you're going to meet. If you're brand new, yes, you can overservice them, call them every week, but there's going to be a point where you're going to have, instead of 2,300 buyers. There's no way you can ring them every week or even month or every year, but they're getting a lot of automation from you. And if a property stands out and they click on it and they turn up to it, then all the automation kicks into gear again. So if you're not yet using our triggers, I would highly recommend you get into them. It will change your business. It will give you great feedback and good word of mouth going around to other people on your service levels. So, okay, so I'm going to slide this in here because I just thought about it and it wasn't something that I was meant to be showing today, but we just did some final testing on it. Very soon, we will have live for everyone is live buyer portal updates. Now, this is a huge, huge feature for people that have large buyer databases. What it basically means is that we're going to be implementing a new trigger that you can set for any interval you want. You could go weekly, you could go monthly, you could go yearly, you could go every 3 months, but you can target all of your buyers with this email. And I'm going to show you it as an example for me now. If we look at my record, and we go into Luke, and in the information buyer criteria, we can see all my criteria are set here. I'm looking as a first home buyer. This new buyer type field is brand new, and it's because of this what I'm about to show you. I've got 2 beds, 1 bath, 2 car apartment house, looking in suburb Dulles Point from 300,000 to 2 million. What we are going to implement as a new trigger is called the buyer portal. And this will allow you to send an email to all of your buyers using the buyer portal template, which you can change, but this will be the template that we have. And it will say, let's update your details. So we send this off to our buyer and pretend you've got 2,500 buyers. And it's going off to 2,500 people right now. And they're getting it on their phone, they're getting it on their email, and they click that link. So I'm just going to pause my screen and open up the email that comes through. Now, here's the email, and I will resume. So you can all see this has come to my inbox. Luke, let's update your details. To help us provide you with the most relevant information possible, please take a moment to answer a few questions. Click the link below to confirm your details and ensure you see the most relevant information from LockedOn Real Estate. They click the update my details and it takes them through to our buyer portal. We can now see instantly their buyer criteria as a summary. So the buyer knows what their criteria is on your system. If they're no longer looking, they can click here, which will turn them off as a buyer. The last part we've got to do before we put this live to you is that anything that happens here, you get an alert that says Luke Noonan is no longer looking to buy, or Luke Noonan has updated his criteria. But this is all live now, working, and we haven't launched it to everyone, but it's available to us to show you today. If I go to update my profile, we can now start to see, is this a first home buyer? Are you downsizing, investor, or owner occupied? So they can tick what they want. So I'm going to change mine to an investor. What's your price range? So we see that they've got 2 million. I'll put it up to 3. And instead of 300,000, we'll say we're looking for 1 million. We go to the next option. What are you looking for? A house, apartment? No longer an apartment. I want a house. I want acreage, semi-rural, or land. And then we can go next. Are you looking for how many bedrooms? We'll say 3 or more, 2 bathrooms, 2 car. We can then go into, are we looking for specific suburbs or all suburbs, all areas? If they want a specific, which you can see I'm Dole's Point, which is what I had set already, we can delete that and just say all suburbs, or we can specify any location by typing it in and selecting the Google Maps. And they can add as many as they want. I'm going to delete that and just say I'm looking in all suburbs that we service. Now, when we hit finish, it says, congratulations, you're done. And you can go back to the home and view your new settings. Now, imagine 2,500 buyers are updating this. This is the next level of buyer engagement and buyer servicing. You no longer have to guess their criteria. They can update it. And as I said, this will become a trigger that you can set to run to your buyer database as often as you want. So if we're going into my information in the buyer criteria, let's have a look. Instantly, 3 beds, 2 bath, 2 car, acreage, house, land, investor. I'm looking from 1 million to 3 million. That was updated within a second of them going through that whole system and setting up all that information. So that is like world exclusive. Haven't showed anyone that. Just finished the testing on it today with a few extra things to go to build into the trigger. But that feature is coming live soon to all the LockedOn users. It's going to be game changer for buyer communication, buyer follow-up, and working your buyers effectively, especially when you have someone that you thought was hot that says, I'm no longer looking to buy. There is a very high chance that that person has now purchased something. And that's going to be a great flag for you to call them and speak to them and find out what they purchased. So I can see a few questions coming through here. When will this be available? Looks fantastic. I think we've probably got another week on that, Peter. So you keep pestering me, but yeah, give us a week. We just got to build the last parts of the alerts, and put the trigger together and then install it in all the packs. Okay, so I'm excited. Just as you guys, wasn't meant to show it, but I was just doing the testing today and I saw it in the screen, so I thought I would. A few chats in there. This looks brilliant. Yeah, LockedOn just paid for itself with that one, or certainly did. We can't wait to get this out. It's going to be an amazing feature and takes away so much buyer work that you have to do. As I said before, the volume of buyers you guys work with is just crazy. There's no way you can speak to them all, but this is now starting to give them tools to just self-populate data for you. Okay, so that was the last little bit on buyers, a bit of a sneak peek of the buyer portal that's coming. We're going to launch that obviously to all users with a banner in LockedOn saying, click here, watch this new feature. So you'll see when that's live. Okay, so looking at the property side of it, this is the potential sellers. I'm going to skim through this pretty quickly today. My main suggestion here is if you want to get more into your buyers and the DNAs, because I went so much into the email templates and the email templates and the little feature there, you can watch previous, and I suggest you watch our last webinar from October and watch from about the 40-minute mark, because it goes a bit more into detail of what I'm going to show you today. But what I want to give today is the brief principles of what it is to add a client with a property, marking them as a potential seller, and setting the appropriate plan when the status changes. And the biggest rule here, or the biggest thing to understand with LockedOn or any real estate CRM, is that the more potential sellers you have, the more valuable your database is and the more money you can make. Okay. So without meeting people that own properties, you're not going to make an income. Okay. Unless you want to go into the world of buyer agents and just work buyers. But when you're a selling agent, the game is to meet as many people that own property. And in my database, there's 13 people that I have and 23 in the whole office. That's what these two numbers mean here. Now, if I look at the 23, when you're putting someone into your system as a potential seller, you add them as a client, and in the information, you tag them as potential seller. So when you tick that, it's updating the count on the dashboard. The definition of a potential seller is you know them, they know you, they own a property in your area. When you put someone as a potential seller on, you need to add the properties they own. Now, Luke Newton, and he has a really good client. He owns 4 properties. I've got one that's listed, one that's for rent, one that I've appraised, and one that I've sold for him. If he had another property in the area, you go actions, link property, and you can add another property against him. So he's got 17 for Malua We know he lives at 1 Malua. Let's put in here that he owns 12 Malua as well. And it's a house. And we will add that property. So we can see here that it's now added the property in as a potential against him. Okay. So if I go back to Luke's record and we look at him as a potential seller, that's where we now see he's got 5 properties. One as a potential, number 12 Wardle Avenue, Catherine Hill Bay. So for that particular property there, what we can now see is that there's 5 main statuses with every property. And in the property statuses area, we first meet someone. The aim of real estate is to prospect or sell to people and get more potential sellers. So if you're prospecting, you meet someone who owns a property, you put them in there a potential. Or if you sell a property to someone, a buyer moves into it, they become a potential. So that's how you get a lot of potentials in the system. You then hopefully build a relationship to appraise that property. You then get it listed. Hopefully you sell it, becomes exchanged or unconditional, and then you nurture it through to settlement. Now, at each 5 of those stages, depending on where you're at, there is a DNA plan to set. And with LockedOn, the beautiful thing about that is that you get $1 million performers, proven systems and templates that you can edit and modify, but will give you really good contact points to build communication with this person from a potential to an appraisal, to a listing, to a sale, and then through to settlement. So let's just skim over that. So if it's a potential, you go actions, apply DNA, and in the DNA plan area, you set our number 1 potential plan. That gives you all of the emails, SMSs, phone calls to build a relationship with this person. If you want, you can turn on automation for these emails and SMSs, and that's a separate YouTube video you can watch about turning on automation. If you're not confident with automation, don't turn it on because you don't know what our templates say. They may not suit your business, but you need to edit them and make sure that you're happy with it. But you can send that, and then it goes off to all of the clients. The automation will go off for this person. Now, as you appraise it, you put the status appraised, and for every appraisal you do, if you're using our plans, you use the actions, apply DNA, and you set the number 2 appraisal plan. Again, that will give you all the appraisal follow-up items. Really good, robust plan. All of our potential appraisal and sale plans, they all have reoccurring tasks, which means that every year on the appraisal date, you're going to call them. Every year on the settlement, you're going to send an SMS to your vendor and your purchaser saying, congratulations, it's been 1 year, 2 year, 3 years since you purchased. LockedOn has everlasting DNA reoccurring. So if you're a principal at office and you hire more staff, all you need to know is that if they're using the system right, putting in every appraisal, putting in every sale, that there will be 1 contact with that person every year. And appraisal is the most important. Anniversary is the most important. So that if you get right into these, you'll have some really, really good follow-up. Now, hopefully from the appraisal, you win that and you get it through to a listing. And with the listing, you then set the actions, apply DNA. When you first list it, we use the awaiting contracts plan, which is 20 items on getting a property ready to go to market. Now, it may not be called awaiting contracts. In some states, you write your own contracts, you have them instantly. Just pretend that's new listing. It doesn't matter. It's just all the steps to getting the property ready to go to market. Now, when you launch the property, then you'll put in the marketing, you'll put your heading, your summary, your images, your opens, you'll upload it. You then set your vendor management plan, which is the add, apply DNA, which is 3.1, private treaty, set it on a Monday. So you generally set it on the closest Monday. So if you listed the property and launched it on the Wednesday, you might start it from Monday the 2nd. Or if you generally Wednesday, I'd probably go to the next Monday, so the 9th. So you always start this on a Monday because a lot of the plans are like do this on a Monday, a Wednesday, or Friday in that item. That's your vendor management plan. Now, between managing the property and it's on the market, you get to a point where it sells. And that's in the life cycle sales advice. You fill in the offer, you link your vendor, solicitor, purchaser, and solicitor purchaser all in this section on the right. And when the property goes unconditional or exchange, you apply the DNA plans 5.1 for the vendor, it sets it, then you set 5.2 for your purchaser. That's all of your congratulations of sale documents, nurturing the sale with the solicitors all the way through until settlement. And when the property settles, we update it from the exchanged through to settled. And when we update the status to settled, that's the day that they call you and say, congratulations, the sale's now done. You now need to give the keys to the purchaser and set all your anniversary plans. And when you do this, you'll then use the transfer property button, which is here. And the transfer property button will give you a workflow that will then allow you to move this property over to the new purchaser and set the anniversary for your selling vendor and for your new purchaser. And remember, anything you sell is really should be high percentage that you're going to resell this. They shouldn't be going to anyone else. If the plan works as it should, you're speaking with them quite frequently. You're giving them anniversary SMS and email calls. And when there's time for them to want an appraisal, they should know that you're the agent that sold them the property 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago because of your follow-up. So make sure that every settlement you do, you've filled in your sales advice, you've linked all the parties, and you transfer that property. As I mentioned before, that's all covered in the last webinar, and we have exact mini tutorials on how you transfer it successfully and set all the correct DNA plans. So if you're not putting your settlements in and you're not transferring them, you're missing probably the easiest clients that you will ever get in real estate, which is your resales for people that you've sold to. And we need to make sure that you're setting them all on a plan to communicate with them. And if you turn on automation and you've got our plans automatically sending emails and SMSs, then it just makes it even easier for you. The SMS will go out every year to your client saying, happy anniversary, it's been 5 years since you purchased the property. Okay. So guys, we're bang on 3 o'clock here, and I'm going to pause the recording. The one thing that I didn't touch on there, when you start to use all those plans and all the follow-ups, this is what happens. You turn on LockedOn every day and it gives you a whole series of tasks. And based on those tasks, it's going to tell you who you need to call that's a lead, who you need to call that's an appraisal, who you need to call that's on the market with you, who you need to follow up that's sold with you or going through a sale, and whose anniversary calls. The one thing that doesn't lie about your progression as a salesperson is this. When you turn on the system every day, if you're a new agent, you'll be lucky to see 2, 3, 4 tasks a day in your first sort of 4 to 6 months. You get over the 12-month mark, you should be seeing around 10. Come into your second year, by the time you've met around 200, 300 potential sellers, you should be getting around 15 tasks a day. Now, the ideal thing is when you're getting to year 3, year 4, year 5, is that you're turning on LockedOn, and in your tasks, you're seeing 20 to 25 connections, which are emails, SMSs, letters, going out to warm to hot clients around follow-up appraisal, anniversary, on the market, going under sale. All of this communication and contact points is what helps you get a reputation of the agent that follow-ups. You're getting your name out there on a very frequent basis. But if you do the simple maths, like we start to look at, there's 365 days in a year. You can then look at that if you minus your 28, 7, 14, 20, 28 days, 4 weeks, you might have holidays, and you take off all the weekends, which is 337. So you got 52 weekends. You might have 2 days off a week, which you probably don't. So you've got 337 minus 104. So 337 minus 104. And then you times that by 25. So connections a day. That's a crazy number. Like, you're not going to do that like consistently, but if you had 25 warm to hot connections in a system a day, and 25 calls are easy, it will take you 2 hours. Okay. And a lot of the stuff will be emails and automatic SMSs. So it's not all 25 things are going to be phone calls, but when you're making 6,000 connections to warm to hot people in your database, that is a huge amount of connections to a target audience that you know them, they know you, they've got a property, they're thinking of selling, they may know other people that are transacting. That's why top performing agents have massive momentum, because this is just their task communication contact points they're making. On top of that, you're doing a weekly email, you're doing your market reports, you're doing your just sold SMSs, you just sold phone calls, you just listed communications. You know, that can get up easily to 10, 15,000 points of contact you're making out to your database. But the one thing that will see your business go up dramatically is your tasks increasing, and be diligent on them. Okay. Don't just delete them for the fact you don't want to do them. Keep on top of them, because when you get that momentum, it is very, very hard to stop. Your business will just keep going forward.